Good afternoon, I'm 14 or good evening. I did that yesterday too. Good evening, I'm 14 First Alert meteorologist Arden Gregory here with your First Alert weather show at 9 o'clock. I'm used to doing the one at 2:30 in the afternoon, but it is nighttime now, and we have an alert day on the board. Tomorrow is not an alert day, but everything beyond that is, if that makes sense. So tomorrow is kind of the only day. It's not going to necessarily be a good day. It's still going to be hot. There's still a chance of rain, but it's not going to be as hot as next week is going to be. So that alert has actually been expanded. We're now on alert from Sunday all the way through the end of next week, and we may even see it expanded beyond that as we've got a dangerous heat wave on the way next week. We are going to see our temperatures climbing into the mid to maybe even upper 90s, and that's hot in and of itself, but our humidity is going to be just through the roof. Literally, we're way up here at the very top of the chart for our humidity, especially by a Wednesday and Thursday of next week. So that paired with those already hot temperatures is going to make for just miserably high heat index values, and we'll talk more about that heat in just a moment. But some of us have dealt with a lot of rain tonight and even some flooding in some locations. I'm getting some reports of some of that right now. I'm reading your comments. William says he got just over an inch in his gauge near Bosse Field, and yes, the east side of Evansville is even worse than it is over by Bosse. 0.7 inches of rain in Sava. Thank you, Jeff Miller. Laura says in Dawson Springs, it poured around 3 this afternoon. And yeah, so people are asking about these flood warnings, and it is kind of a mess. I'm not going to lie to you. So we've got this lighter green shade here, which goes from Henderson east into Owensboro and then north into Spencer and over into Warwick County. That is a flood advisory that's in effect there. And then the little blue box that is just the east side of Evansville into western Warwick County up to about Newburgh, that is a flash flood warning. Then the sort of medium green that goes from there north, that covers most of Vanderburgh County as well as western Warwick County, that is just a regular flood warning. So we've got a flood advisory, a flood warning, and a flash flood warning all in effect over the same general area. And really that just means that everybody from Evansville kind of stretching to the east along the Ohio River there is at various stages and intensity of flooding. So all of those locations are dealing with some flooding, but some are worse than others. And particularly the east side of Evansville has been really hard hit. And this is from these storms. They started out very spotty. They came up out of the south and pushed through western Kentucky. But then as they moved to the northeast, we had an issue with some outflow boundaries, which always messes with the modeling and whatnot. So basically, as some of these storms collapsed, the act of them collapsing, it's almost like, think of if you dropped a water balloon and then it's going to splash out, right? So the act of that thunderstorm collapsing didn't mean that then the rain was over. In fact, that act of it collapsing triggered this outflow boundary, and we got additional showers and storms that then popped up, and some of them were not going the same direction as the previous ones were because it all kind of expanded out. It was a real hot mess on the radar here. And so as those storms kind of came back the other way and collided with the others, we ended up with some areas that got no rain at all, and then others where we had rain just kind of stalled out over one location, and that's how we ended up with those flood warnings. So this is a loop of the past 3 hours, and you can see that thunderstorm kind of develop over the east side of Evansville toward Newburgh, right along I-69 there, and then it actually started to drift to the south right as this other rain was coming in from the north, and those kind of clashed, and we got some very heavy rain over Henderson, stretching to the east towards Spotsville there along US 60. And then we've had this additional rain moving through now. Thankfully, the worst of it seems to have gone north of the areas that were hardest hit earlier, but that may now be causing some additional flooding issues on the north side of Vanderburgh County, which is why we've had that other flood warning issued. So Again, we've got flood advisories, flood warnings, and flash flood warnings all in effect over this same general region. So this is where we've had the heaviest rain and quite a bit of flooding ongoing. But yeah, that outflow boundary really messed with things. And right now, we've got just still a few pockets of heavy rain and some lightning stretching from Gibson County down into Vanderburgh County over into Warwick. Just that little patch of yellow there, that's where we've still got some lightning and heavy rain. But for most folks, this is really turning into just some very light showers, and I'm hoping we're in the process of this whole thing dying out. Now, I will say none of the models have handled this well at all. The model that I'm showing you right now, you'll notice, is not picking up on how much of that rain is still hanging around. It shows that it's dry up here where we currently have thunderstorms. It's only picking up on a fraction of that rain, but this is actually the only model showing any rain at all. All of the models were indicating that those storms were going to die down and then we were going to dry out as we went into the night, and that is just not at all how things have played out. So Mother Nature threw us a bit of a curveball on that one, but the rain is starting to die down now, and it's not a collapsing thunderstorm. It's just turning into a lighter rainfall, and I think it will gradually taper off now. This model is showing that little bit of rain it is picking up on dying out completely within the next hour or two. I don't know that it's going to be quite that quick because, again, it's not picking up on all of the rain that we have, but we are seeing this process of these storms are weakening, the rain is getting lighter, and will eventually let up completely as we head into the overnight hours, or at least we think it will. As we go through the rest of the night, then, we'll be mainly dry. An isolated shower can't be ruled out late tonight into tomorrow morning, but most of us will stay dry. Saturday, the emphasis will be to the north. Tonight, those storms started to our south, and then things got kind of messy as it moved northward toward the Ohio River. Saturday, the rain's going to start out to the north. We may get a few isolated showers and storms earlier in the day, mainly north of I-64. Then as we get into Saturday afternoon and into Saturday evening, we have these storms coming down from the north. So they start out along and north of I-64 tomorrow afternoon, and then they move from north to south across the tri-state as we go through Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening. I will say this looks like a pretty big scary line, all of that red. I think this model may be overplaying things just a bit, but the timing and the general idea, I think, is probably pretty close, where we have these storms developing to the north in the afternoon, then moving south across the tri-state as we go through Saturday afternoon and into Saturday evening, and then that rain will probably come to an end by about 9 o'clock tomorrow night. So from about 3 in the afternoon to the north till about 8 or 9 o'clock on the south end of the tri-state, we have this chance of storms, with it most likely moving through along the Ohio River, including Evansville and Owensboro, probably sometime between 4 and 7 p.m., probably closer to 5 or 6. So again, that's just an estimation, but that's the general idea. That's when our best chance of seeing rain is on Saturday. However, there are isolated chances earlier in the day too, especially if you're north of I-64. That rain then tapers off Saturday night, moving into Sunday. Sunday is trending a bit drier. As a result, it's also trending hotter, but there is an isolated chance for some storms as we get through Sunday afternoon and evening, and then taper things off a bit as we get into Sunday night. However, there's still another chance for rain on Monday, so we're still stuck in this kind of unsettled weather pattern. The level 1 risk has been removed, so any remaining rain we see out there tonight, there's not a severe weather risk. It would just be that flooding risk for the heavy rain that has already fallen and any additional rain that would fall on top of that. But for those of you who are getting a little bit of heavy rain, a little lightning, it's just a run-of-the-mill thunderstorm. We're not expecting any severe weather tonight. Tomorrow, the best chance of severe storms will be north of the tri-state, and here at home, it would be for those of you along and north of I-64, most likely, if we're going to get any severe weather at all. Sunday, everyone is outlooked in that level 1 risk. Again, our chance of rain on Sunday is pretty spotty, but the idea is that rain could pop up anywhere in the tri-state, and wherever it happens to develop, there is that possibility that we could see an isolated strong or even severe storm. With any storms that we see through the entire weekend, though, the number 1 threat is flooding. We've seen that several days in a row now where we have these thunderstorms that, even though they're not severe thunderstorms, really pack a punch when it comes to the rainfall. Just there's so much humidity, so much moisture in the atmosphere right now, and as those thunderstorms tap into that and kind of squeeze that out, it is just pouring out there when these storms get going. So that'll be something we're monitoring as we go through the weekend. While we're not really anticipating severe storms, things like hail and tornadoes, we're not outlooked for that. We might get an isolated damaging wind gust, but really the main concern is that any thunderstorms that develop, it's so moist out there right now, any storm that develops could potentially bring some very heavy rainfall. So that's something that we'll continue to monitor moving forward. As for our temperatures, the rain really cooled us off. For those of you who haven't gotten the rain yet, Lawrenceville, Mount Carmel, Oakland City still in the lower 80s. Everybody else sitting somewhere in the mid 70s. It's 74 right now in Evansville, 75 in Owensboro. Our temperatures may actually rebound just a little bit as that rain moves out, but generally it's going to hold pretty steady. We'll just kind of hang out in the mid 70s through the rest of the night tonight, but with calm winds and all of that moisture from the rain and the high humidity, I do think that we will see some areas of fog developing as the night goes on and into Saturday morning. So if you're going to be out and about early tomorrow, don't be surprised if you do run into some of that patchy fog. That will then burn off as the sun comes overhead tomorrow morning. Throughout the day on Saturday, it'll be partly cloudy. Again, an isolated chance of rain earlier in the day. Best chance of rain is going to be Saturday afternoon and evening. It is going to be another hot and humid one out there. It's late July in the tri-state. That's no surprise. Temperatures will top out in the lower 90s, but the heat index values will probably peak somewhere around 100 to 102. So temperature-wise, that's fairly similar to what we saw today. So it will be steamy out there, that's for sure, but it's only going to get hotter then moving forward. So those heat index values around 100 to 102 tomorrow, that's considered a moderate heat risk. So certainly if you don't drink water, you don't take care of yourself, and you go outside and you try and, run a mile or something in that kind of heat, it's going to be a problem. But as long as you're, drinking water and doing all the things you need to do, your heat related illness risk is kind of typical for late July in the tri-state, right? But then as we get into Sunday, notice that surge into that major heat risk, and that continues through Monday and Tuesday, and then gets even worse by Wednesday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're sort of right at the cusp of that major heat risk. Then it just really takes over by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we even start to see a few little pockets of purple showing up, which would be considered an extreme heat risk. And when I say heat risk, I'm talking about the risk of heat-related illness, so things like heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Keep in mind that heat kills more Americans than any other type of weather. Year after year, number one is heat, number two is flooding, year after year. Both of those are concerns as we go through the next few days. So the flooding will be very isolated. It's just going to be whoever gets caught under that downpour, especially if it's an area that doesn't drain very well. You're going to end up with some very isolated flooding in certain parts. The heat, that's going to be a widespread threat. Everyone is going to be dealing with this heat. And again, we're talking about a major to maybe even extreme heat-related illness risk as we go through the latter half of next week. And then it may even extend beyond that. The Climate Prediction Center has outlooked the tri-state and much of the rest of the middle part of the country here as having a high risk of extreme heat from Saturday, July 26th up through August 1st. So we've already issued these alert days for the heat starting on Sunday. Again, this has been expanded. It started out just the middle of next week, and then it's become clear that really the heat's going to be a problem for several days. So I've now got the first alert weather day starting on Sunday. That's the first day that we see that major heat risk, and then it continues through the entire week, and it's possible we'll end up having to continue to extend that first alert weather day. And I mean, I could see it going all the way through next weekend, maybe even into next Monday. So this is going to be an extended period of extremely high heat and humidity. And so that's very concerning. This heat wave that we're talking about could really, really become problematic and dangerous if you don't take the proper precautions. So everybody plan ahead. Think about what you're going to be doing next week. Think about how hot it's going to be. Move any sort of strenuous activity to very early in the morning or later in the evening. Drink lots of water. All week long next week, I want everyone drinking lots of water, even when you're not thirsty. Just be sipping on water all the time to keep yourself hydrated because it is going to be dangerously hot out there, especially Wednesday, Thursday. I think everything will sort of ramp up toward Wednesday and Thursday, then ramp back down as we get into next weekend. But Wednesday, Thursday looks like it's probably going to be the peak of that heat wave. We're talking about temperatures potentially climbing into the upper 90s, and those heat index values will probably be up around 110. I think it's very possible. I think we could see a heat index of 110 by Wednesday, Thursday. So everybody, please take this seriously and be very careful out there. So tonight and when the storms are moving through tomorrow, be on the lookout for flooding. Again, not a widespread problem, but if you get caught under a downpour, these storms have a history. There's just so much moisture out there right now. It's almost tropical, where these storms very easily, very quickly can just dump large amounts of rain and cause just these very localized flooding issues. Then the first alert weather days are for the more widespread concern. Everybody from Sunday on is going to be dealing with that dangerous heat. So I hope that answers any questions you might have had. I'm not seeing any additional questions. Oh, sorry, I'm just realizing that some of you I'd missed. Let me scroll back up and double check if I've got any additional questions. Folks just reporting heavy rain, Newburgh, Henderson, Princeton. Yeah, there are some areas in Evansville where you may even run into issues where you're not going to be able to drive through it. The roads are flooded in some parts of Evansville, so just be on the lookout for that, especially if you drive through an area that you know floods frequently. I think Raybecker Parkway is probably dealing with some flooding right now. That area is a repeat offender when it comes to flooding. So when we get this kind of heavy rain, just go ahead and avoid those areas if you can. If you try and drive through them and you get there and there's water over the road, just turn around, find a different way to go. That would be my advice. We don't want anyone having to be pulled out of the floodwaters by first responders tonight. That's not how you or them want to spend their evening. So everybody, please just avoid driving through floodwaters. And yes, Jessica says, like little tropical downpours. That's exactly what we're dealing with right now, and we'll continue to deal with on through tomorrow as well. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully I answered everybody's questions. I'm still trying to keep an eye on the comments, but I think we've pretty much got it now. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. You will not be able to watch 14 News at 10 on the TV over the air, just so you know. We've got the baseball game airing on our NBC main channel right now, and that's going to go out over 14 News at 10. We will still be having 14 News at 10, but you'll only be able to watch it on our streaming platform. So on 14news.com, on the 14 News app, anywhere that you would normally watch our streaming content, you can watch 14 News at 10 tonight there, but the baseball game is going to be on our NBC main channel. So just be aware of that in case you go looking for 14 News at 10 tonight. All right, everybody have a great weekend. Don't drive through any floodwaters and stay cool.